JB Live will begin momentarily. JB Live will begin momentarily.
The fight over evidence, the specifics of the alibi, and a secret witness, all under the spotlight in a key pretrial hearing in the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. Bryan Kohberger's hearing rescheduled and opened up for today. We're going to have the feed from the Stream Center.
Live from the Stream Center in Tampa, Florida. Top stories, breaking news, interactive coverage in the palm of your hand. This is Hey JB Live. Here's JB Biunno.
You know what blows my mind about this story when you just kind of look at it on paper is that it's been 18 months, a year and a half since Bryan Kohberger was arrested. Year and a half. And we don't know when trial is actually going to be. We have maybe some guesses, some hints, but we don't even know when trial is going to be. We are still in pre-trial hearings, folks. Welcome into the Stream Center. JB here with you live ahead of a 5:30 Eastern pre-trial hearing in the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. Let's get to, of course, the guests that are joining us here on stream. On the left side of your screen, the one and only lawyer you know, Peter Tragos, is joining us to hang out with us for the next 20 or so minutes ahead of the hearing itself. And then WFLA.com digital producer Garrett Phillips is joining us here in the Stream Center. And real quick, Peter, before we start to break this down and what we're expecting at 5:30 today, Garrett, we have an article on WFLA.com where people can read a little bit more ahead of the 5:30 hearing, correct?
We do. Yeah, it's up on the homepage now. You can see here, Kohberger defense team wants cell phone evidence from prosecutors. That's the title that you're looking for. Basically breaking down what we're expecting today. The defense is, trying to get more discovery because they've been having that issue basically throughout all of the pre-trial hearings of, getting the proper amount of discovery for them to build their case for their defense. They're specifically looking for cell phone data from the prosecutors that is linked to Kohberger's alibi. As well as records for video and photos that were taken of the vehicle that supposedly Kohberger was driving near the scene that night.
Yeah, so folks, you can go over to our website and you can read more, of course, on our website, WFLA.com. I also want to point out as well that we are asking a question, and this is a really good place to begin with Peter. We're asking this poll question on HeyJB.live. Why do you think the defense is still waiting for evidence from the prosecution? You have 3 options here. 1, because there's a huge amount of evidence. We've covered ad nauseum, really, folks, about the 51 terabytes of evidence that the prosecution is going through. Is it a legal strategy to, again, the defense and Taylor has made the accusation that that the prosecution is withholding evidence. Is that even potentially happening? Or is there a different reason why the defense still doesn't have evidence that they need to formulate the proper defense before we can head to trial for Bryan Kohberger? So, folks, if you haven't done so before, go interactive. You can, of course, go to the URL heyjb.live. If you're joining us from a different country outside of the U.S. or Canada, you can go to world.heyjb.live, and it looks just like this on your phone. One tap to vote in our poll. You can also submit a VIP comment. With that, let's get to Peter. Peter, is it strange to you that the defense is still waiting for evidence in this case? Is it unorthodox to you? Does it stand out, or are you not surprised?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. In every case, one side or the other wants more information and more discovery than they usually get. So there's a lot of delays. Obviously, once the speedy trial was waived, this happens a lot of times in defense cases where they feel like the prosecutor's withholding evidence. But it does seem to be the same cycle over and over again where they ask for something, the state objects or says they don't have it. They file a motion to compel. We have a hearing. And so many times after that hearing, I'll say maybe more than most cases, the state has to turn it over, or the evidence becomes available, or the defense has won. A lot of these motions and a lot of these motions to compel specifically, even after Judge has reviewed some of the evidence, like in the DNA situation.
So how often does it happen when there's this gamesmanship? If the prosecution comes across a certain folder of evidence and they're like, you know what? This is something that the defense can potentially use against our case. How often does it happen where they'll maybe, again, based on Ann Taylor's, accusation, withhold that or at least delay the delivery of that to the defense?
It happens, but it's unusual. It's definitely the exception. It's not the rule. For the most part, prosecutors have such an upper hand in every case. They have all the resources, law enforcement behind them. They have all the evidence. They usually don't care. They're pretty confident in their case, and they'll turn over everything that is necessary to turn over. What I think is happening in this case more often than not, rather than it being legal strategy or even a huge amount of evidence, is I do think the FBI and the federal government is playing a role in what they're turning over to prosecutors, what they're saying exists, what they're saying doesn't exist. The prosecutors are having to take their word for it. And they're basically little brother and saying, Judge, if they don't give it to us, we don't have it. What do you want us to do?
I think it has to be stated that I'll try to bring up the exact quote that Mr. Thompson, who is of course leading the team of prosecutors, there he is seated there on the left side of the table. He is, I forget exactly the word that he used. I think he said it was nonsense. Basically, it was something to the effect of it being nonsense, the accusation that they would actually withhold evidence and not pass that over to the defense. But Peter, these two sides, and we didn't stream the last pretrial hearing in this case, but these two sides are not getting along. It has gotten confrontational in this courtroom to the extent where Judge had to step in and basically remind everybody that, that they're, everyone's got to be cordial, that even though that there's disagreements being fired off left and right, look, we're not even at trial just yet.
I think that happens again more oftentimes than not when the pressure is mounting. And I think especially for the prosecutors, we know that the victims in this case, at least some of them, have filed potential notices of claim if there were issues or the investigation was screwed up or if the ball was dropped somewhere. So I definitely think, the public perception and pressure is on there for both sides. And sometimes you start to get heated when you feel like it's not a fair fight or you're having to play with one hand tied behind your back, which it seems like the defense is thinking is happening in this case. And then, of course, the prosecutor doesn't like when these accusations are thrown across the table. And they definitely don't like being the subject of PowerPoint presentations saying you open the door to all of this by going out there and saying this stuff at the jump of the case.
Well, here's the exact quote from Thompson. The characterization that we're just consciously withholding information to frustrate the defense is utter nonsense. That is not true. We will provide everything we can that is providable under the rules. That's an interesting way to end it, providable under the rules. And I think I have another quote here from Taylor saying, the state knows full well what they have and what they're withholding from us. We don't know what they're going to show, but we know they exist. A lot of this is about cell phone data, and that brings in this secret witness. We keep hearing about a witness that is going to be testifying in this hearing. It's not all that strange to have a witness testify in a pretrial hearing, Peter. We know that, but to not know the identity of the person who is going to actually be testifying today, is that strange? Also, we should probably point out as well, these hearings were rescheduled. This was originally supposed to happen a couple of weeks ago. Peter, you and I were texting about getting on stream earlier this month for these hearings, and then out of nowhere, I think it was a last-minute cancellation and postponement by Judge to push it back to the end of the month, and then very curiously decides to reopen it. Now, I've seen some reports today that some portions of this hearing might be open, some portions of it might be closed. So this witness that is going to testify, we don't know if that's going to be something that is going to be streamable, or if they're going to turn off the Zoom camera or shut down the Zoom room. But what are your expectations with this witness testifying today, and how strange is it that we don't know exactly who this is?
So again, I don't know the answer to who the witness is going to be, obviously, but using context clues and trying to read between the lines, I would put my money on, or my guess or bet would be, that this witness is going to testify about the cell phone data, maybe videos, maybe texts, maybe some kind of technology or electronic evidence, and say that if A, B, and C exist, then X, Y, and Z also must exist. And the state has turned over A, B, and C, but they have not turned over X, Y, and Z. And for them to say it doesn't exist is just wrong. Technically, scientifically, whatever. That's what I kind of expect to hear, is that they're going to say there has to be other evidence, there has to be other data, and they're not turning it over. Now, whether that's good or bad for Bryan Kohberger, we don't know, but the defense is adamant that there are things that exist that the state is not turning over.
Right. And it'll be curious, because between hearings, Peter, we know that emails are likely getting exchanged, and there is a trickle.
More work is being done.
Yes. So it's going to be very interesting. Every time that we have one of these hearings, I find it fascinating to see Ann Taylor's demeanor. Is she more satisfied that day than she was the previous hearing? Or is she even more frustrated by how little she has received between these hearings that we have had really every few weeks, every so often? We're going to get to some of your comments, folks. We want to spend the next 10 minutes or so before the actual YouTube, stream opens up on Judge's channel. As a reminder, Judge has his own YouTube channel. We're just going to be basically providing a chat for you while we go to Judge's channel. And Garrett, you're once again on the refresh game, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, I'm just going to sit here, refresh it every, 15, 20 minutes until we get a feed. Hopefully around the time 5:30 our time is when we should be able to tune into it.
Yeah, so Garrett's just going to be refreshing and manually checking.
One more for you there.
Yeah, there you go. Checking to see exactly when the feed does pop up. When it does pop up, we'll go to it full screen, and that'll be it for our pre-hearing coverage. Let's get to some of the comments that are coming in, and we're going to start with the VIP comments that are coming into heyjb.live. We start there. If you go to our website, you can submit a comment, and you're kind of first up in the queue. So we'll start with that, Peter, and then what we'll do is we'll kind of work our way into the YouTube Live comment section as well.
While you're looking to pull one up, one of the other things you asked is whether it was surprising that we don't know the identity of this witness. And I think that really has to do with some of the other things you're mentioning, like, are we going to close this hearing? Are we going to open this hearing? Originally, Judge said we're going to close it, but now that we're opening it, maybe this witness has something to do with the closed part, or what was going to be closed before. So at this point, we're just going to keep his identity a secret, or her identity a secret. It could have to do with that. There's so much that's been done kind of in a closed setting or a sealed setting in this case, that one thing is clear: we do not know everything. We probably will not know everything even after trial, but we'll learn a lot more during trial. Yeah,
there's so much conversation just about evidence being, sent from one side to the other. It makes you wonder what trial is going to look like when it does in fact occur. All right, to the VIP comments that are coming in on our website first, and then we'll try to hit up YouTube if we have some time. Let's go to Megan first, saying that there is mountains of evidence. Again, you can vote in our poll while you're over there, and we'll go to the results here in a bit. And there's 51 terabytes. I described on a previous stream that I think in all the stream work that I've done at WFLA in recent years, I think it amounts to just a few, like 2 or 3 terabytes. The fact that they have 51 terabytes, that doesn't really mean a whole lot to a lot of people, but a dork like me, It means a lot, and it's an absolute massive amount of evidence. Rena agrees, saying so much evidence. Dangerous says, I think it takes time for other companies to compile evidence asked for under warrant. For example, if you want certain cell phone data via warrant, one business analyst is assigned to that request, and they have to compile it and send it up the chain for approval. Peter, do you think that there's a lot to the argument that even the prosecution is still trying to gather what they need as far as evidence?
So, dangerous offender is not wrong in that some of this stuff can take time, but not this much time.
Yeah.
At this point, I think that there are certain things where we've had situations like this where the FBI basically determines this is not relevant, or we're not going to turn this over. We don't care if you ask for it. And that sometimes is where we have to get the court involved. And the prosecutor's like, my hands are tied. I don't know what you want me to tell you. They say it doesn't exist. And then again, we have to prove it does exist and get a court to order them to give it to us. But that's really probably the biggest part of the delay, not the cell phone companies, not any private companies just taking their sweet time producing evidence. I don't think that's what's happening.
John says they are the middleman and don't have it. They will need the judge to intervene and compel the entities with the evidence to turn it over. Similar comment there. Natalie says, I think it has to do with something about the exculpatory evidence that Ann Taylor claims that BF has. I can't see why the prosecution would be withholding info, especially that's not legal. Let's also confirm that knowingly withholding information from the defense is illegal, right? So it's a very boisterous claim, Peter, to point to the prosecutor at the other side and say, you have stuff that you're not giving me. And that's why things have gotten very testy in these pretrial hearings so far.
So people always think that means, they're withholding a video that shows somebody else doing it. But in this case, I think she's probably right. Ann Taylor's probably right, but it's not necessarily what everybody's thinking. My guess is there is some data that either the state doesn't have or they haven't turned over yet that Ann Taylor wants and believes exists, and eventually she'll turn it over, but it's not going to prove that Bryan Kohberger didn't do this. It may help them create arguments and a defense like, oh, his cell phone actually was tracking and it's very weird where it was on these towers, or things like that. Things that the defense can argue and say is potentially exculpatory, but it's not a smoking gun in favor of the defense.
How about this comment here from Maui Girl? Gary, can you do a quick check what time it is in Hawaii
Maui
right now? That's pretty cool. We got a Maui Girl's joining us from Hawaii, saying aloha, JB and Peter. When do you think this trial will actually start? 2025 or 2026? Let's point out, as Maui Girl brings this into the conversation, let's point out two important things. This hearing that is expected to begin in about 6 minutes. This hearing is not expected to dive into whether or not the case should be in Latah County or not. That's expected for a hearing next month in June. This is really supposed to focus on a witness testimony, supposed to focus on the fight for evidence and the alibi. The other pretrial sort of things that they got to get through as far as where the trial is going to be and when the trial will be held is scheduled for a later date. But to that point, Maui Girl wants to know, Peter, is this, I think normally most people would ask this question and say, is it going to start in 2024 or 2025? She's saying 2025 or 2026.
If I had to guess, I'd say 2025. Everybody is really pushing and they're really trying to push for early 2025. But I think, as your question puts it, it's going to be later in 2025. I don't think it's going to be March or whatever dates they're kind of looking at now. I still think summer is the best option, but I would plan at this point and guess that this trial is going to start in 2025.
Would you believe that Bryan Kohberger has spent 18 months behind bars and he still doesn't know exactly when trial is going to be?
Not uncommon.
Yeah, not uncommon. It just, for such a high profile case, to not have clarity at this point is it certainly jumps off the page. And
for the victims to just be,
that's right,
sitting there waiting. When are we going to get this day in court? When are we going to have some finality to this? When are we going to have some justice? It's brutal. The delays in court are brutal for everyone. Yeah,
the families of the victims in this case, and the four of them have been scrolling on your screen. It's just it's absolutely terrible to think about what they've been going through. And they've been outspoken. A couple of the families have been outspoken and saying they want answers as to when they are going to get justice. If you're just joining us here, folks, we'll put away Maui Girl's comment for a second and show you Judge's YouTube page. He has not gone live yet. The hearing is expected at 2:30 Pacific time and 5:30 Eastern. That's in 3 minutes from now. As a reminder, folks, I think I referenced this earlier, but I'll come back to this. By the way, what time is it in Hawaii?
Just before 11:30 right now.
Okay, so it's 11:30 in Hawaii,
11:30,
2:30 Pacific time, 5:30 Eastern. Maui Girls joining us right before lunchtime. Really quickly, we don't know how long this hearing is going to go. We have no idea how long this hearing is expected to be. We will not be having post-hearing coverage. We're just going to stream the actual hearing itself off of Judge's YouTube page, and that'll be it for Peter and I as far as the live streaming efforts. Peter, do you have any? I know you are so busy these days covering a lot of different massive legal cases. I want to give you the opportunity really quick just to talk about what you have coming up on your channel.
Sure. I mean, at this point, it feels like we're talking about everything, but we're focusing on the Karen Reed trial over in Boston. Is it a cover up? Did Karen Reed kill her boyfriend? That's a trial going on right now. We've got the Chad Daybell trial over in Idaho. So much going on in Idaho. The defense rested, so we should be getting closing arguments and potentially a verdict soon. And we're always covering Bryan Kohberger. I mean, this case is fascinating. Been covering it for so long. Want to continue with it, and I like talking about every case where people can learn from, answering questions, breaking stuff down. Even a little Scotty Scheffler talk lately, which that's
video
a wild
came out
situation
today.
Over there.
Yeah, absolutely wild. And as a golfer, I'm sure that one really piqued Peter's interest. Yeah, folks, check out Peter's channel, The Lawyer You Know. Awesome stuff. And I think you're at Lawyer You Know on X now, which is pretty cool to see. Love to see it. Angela says, #KJB, watching from England. All right, now we need, what time is it in England? You got that?
I'm on it.
With my bestie, can you give us a basic rundown of what actual evidence there is and might be? And England time is?
10:30 p.m.
Okay, so we got people watching at all points in the day. The actual evidence against Kohberger is there's digital evidence, there's forensic evidence, there's video evidence. Let's actually break it down really one at a time. And Peter, feel free to hop in at any point as I kind of go through this. There's cell phone tower data that points to Kohberger turning off his phone. And without going through all of the different points, and there's been some maps created, some great folks on Reddit too that have been doing a great job piecing this together and connecting the dots. So there's cell phone tower data that is expected to be massively paramount as far as this case goes, because of course your phone goes where you go. There's also said to be video recordings of Bryan Kohberger's white Hyundai in the area of the murder scene in of course, the night that the murders occurred. And then additionally, we also have the forensic evidence. Investigators using a form of DNA sampling called IgG, that's investigative genetic genealogy, which basically states that investigators and forensic analysts used relatives of Kohberger to establish a DNA profile that linked to Kohberger as a suspect. So all of this is going to take center stage at the trial. Anything I missed there, Peter?
I mean, there's stuff we don't know if it exists, right? Did he search them out on social media? Did he try to contact any of them? Some of that has been just called out as blatantly false by prosecutors and defense attorneys in open court, but we don't know what that search results and things like that. There's a lot we don't know, but I think you hit all the categories, and we're just going to have to find out how it all connects the dots.
As we await we'll look at this as we refresh, and as we do, good opportunity. Maybe we can get one more vote. Can we get to 50 votes? Can someone go over to heyjb.live and give us our 50th vote on why you think the defense is still waiting for evidence from the prosecution? And then we'll animate those results here live on screen. See if we can get one more as we wait for the judge. It's interesting because the court staff is going to be opening up the YouTube stream, and this is mostly done via Zoom, but then they push out the Zoom room to YouTube, and then that's available to us and the media and the public at large. And we see that Judge is up to 21,000 subscribers, not too shabby for a YouTube account with absolutely zero content on it. And the reason that there's zero content on it, folks, is Judge goes live, and then it's at the moment that he ends the stream, it vanishes off the account forever. So the only record of these hearings are on accounts like ours that actually have captured it live, streamed it, and then, of course, made it presentable as a video on demand in the aftermath of the live. So we're up to, we've passed over 50 votes. So why do you think the defense is still waiting for evidence from the prosecution? A majority, now there it is, 50%, roughly, the numbers are still coming in. 48 to 50% of our audience thinks it's a legal strategy, Peter, that it is a deliberate move by the prosecution, and 35% because of reminder, as Larry is on point here, the murder weapon has never been recovered. The sheath was recovered at the scene, that K-bar knife sheath that was recovered at the scene, and on the button of that sheath was just enough DNA evidence to, link them to Kohberger, as so we've been told. But any chance that they're still looking for the knife, and that's a tactic here, Peter?
They're saying the stall time from the defense. But I think as a case continues on, investigators, prosecutors, law enforcement are never going to stop searching for things that's going to make their case better. And as they find it, they're going to discover it, meaning turn it over to the defense. So sure, I think they're going to keep looking for everything. But I don't think they expect to find the knife at this point. And if they do, you better believe a big argument for the defense is, why did they
a good one, and hopefully we'll try to get guys, I keep hearing that the audio is breaking up. We will look into that. Tim says, I think the prosecution has evidence that would put some doubt in him being guilty. Does that ever happen, Peter, where the prosecution is reviewing the evidence and they say, wow, this doesn't add up with this narrative that we are building that the person is guilty? And then I would imagine that that's pretty uncomfortable to come across, no?
I mean, that could be considered exculpatory evidence, and they literally have to turn that over. If they don't, you'll never work again as a prosecutor if that happens. And you so I appreciate that as somebody who doesn't usually watch them live and can come watch your guys' stream later. So yeah, you can find me, Lawyer You Know, on all YouTube, social media platforms. Come check out the cases we're handling, get in the chat, ask some questions, and let me know what you think about all these cases.
Peter, thank you so much. Folks, we're stepping away for a quick second to fix our audio issues. We're live here from the Stream Center. The hearing itself has not yet begun, so you're not missing anything. We're going to get our audio fixed before, and our signal looks good, but apparently YouTube is having difficulty receiving it. We're going to see if we can get this fixed before the actual hearing itself begins. Stand by. The
Thank you. Get on record,
hearing
please.
has begun. Listening in here live.
Okay, we are now on the record. This is State versus Bryan Kohberger, CR 29222805. Mr. Kohberger is here in the courtroom with his attorney, Ms. Taylor. The state's represented by Mr. Thompson and Ms. Jennings, Latah County Prosecutor's Office. I believe Mr. Loxton is remote, and so is Ms. Mathis, both representing Mr. Kohberger. I think I've covered everybody. Ms. Evans is court reporter. We're here for a motion and a potential witness, I believe, relating to motions to compel discovery, 4th and 5th. That's all I know. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Taylor.
Your Honor, the court is correct. We are here to begin the motions to compel. We have testimony today from Detective Mowry. As the court will recall, he's unavailable on the 30th and 31st, which are the days when we will have the full scope of our motions to compel. So it may feel a little choppy, but we would like to hear from Detective Mowry today and would call him when it's appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Anything preliminary? Mr. Thompson and Ms. Jennings?
Okay.
Okay, great. Detective Mowry, come on up. You face the clerk, raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
All right, thank you, sir. Go ahead and have a seat there. Once you're seated, please state your name and spell your last.
My name is Lawrence Mowry, Mowry.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Taylor?
Thank you. Will you tell us how you're employed?
I'm employed with the Moscow Police Department.
What is your role there?
I am a detective.
How long have you worked for Moscow Police Department?
I've worked in Moscow for over 5 years.
Have you been a detective that entire time?
I have.
And prior to that, did you have law enforcement experience?
I do.
How many years total?
We have on 14.
Detective Mallory, did you take part in the investigation into the homicides on King Road?
Yes.
And what was your role?
A lot of different things. How to answer that.
Well, I can ask you about a couple of roles, maybe.
Sure.
Do you do any work with cell phones and cell towers?
I have taken training for cell phone analysis.
Was that one of the roles that you played in this investigation? All right. And the other area that I'd like to talk to you about is the collection of videotape evidence or surveillance evidence from around the community. What was your role in that?
So we gathered a lot of data, a lot of USBs, hard drives that came in. At one point, all of that was given to me so that I could copy it over to a server. So we have it stored and backed up.
Did you inventory it at that time as you got it in, I guess?
Don't have to say inventory. I used the evidence technician to help me book them individually at the time. Right, so the USB had the name of it on it. I would label the folder, what it was, and that came from it.
Did you have any role in verifying the content of the surveillance?
No.
I'm going to have a few questions about that, but I want to talk a little bit more about your role with cell phones and cell towers. So let's start there, okay? What training do you have for that role?
So some time ago, I went through what they say PATC training, which is cellular analysis, and I've also taken classes with CAS codes.
The cellular analysis, is that particular to the device itself, the cell phone device?
No.
That is particular to towers?
To the towers and the providers themselves.
When did you take that training?
Well, the CAS, I believe it was in 2019, and then I also did it again last year.
And the CAS that you took in 2019, that was the ENDICAC, is that right?
That was predominant again, correct?
And the CAS that you took last year was October of 2023, is that correct?
Yes.
And that was the actual CAST training.
They were both done by actual CAS members. I'm not sure if one was sponsored by the other, but they were both owned by FBI CAS members.
And Your Honor, if I can approach.
Yes, thank you.
Detective Mallory, I'm putting in front of you what's labeled as Defendant's Exhibit O, and those are 2 certificates for training. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. The one that's from 2019, what did that cover?
That covered the use of the CAS software.
And what did the one in 2023 cover?
The second.
Your Honor, I move for admission of Defendant's O.
The objection?
No objection.
Okay, those are exhibit, oh, no objection. Thank you.
The Detective Mallory, how many total hours do those certificates represent of CAS training?
I apologize, I didn't look, it was a week long. It was actually a couple of days each time. 2 days apiece, please.
Do you need this?
But so the 2019 shows 24 hours, 2023 says 16 hours.
Thank you, Detective.
Thank you.
Detective, you've written some reports in this case, is that correct?
Yes.
I want to talk about 2 particular reports right now. One is from May the 5th of 2023. Do you recall that report, or should I bring a copy of that to you?
It'd be helpful to add it up.
I can definitely do that. You can show it to Ms. Jennings.
We have a jury next door,
Okay.
just so you know, that's all about.
Detective Mallory, does that appear to be your report from May 5th of 2023?
Yes.
And your order would move for admission of defendants P,
That's P,
like Paul?
all right? Any objection?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Exhibit P is admitted, no objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Mallory, I do not have a police report for the other one that I want to talk about today. It's one that I received via email today that was written just within the last few days by you, probably. Do you know what report I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what I want to understand is we're talking about documents or records or logs that can be created by a CAST-Viz program. The report that you wrote that I received today, when did you learn about those documents that exist according to that report?
The session logs that I found were from yesterday.
Why did you come to find them yesterday?
I was preparing for this hearing.
Okay. And those are things that existed for quite some time, is that correct?
They did.
And when you wrote about your work with CAST-Viz in May of 2023, did you document those items?
No.
Tell me what you found when you were preparing for the motion to compel today.
I found session logs that were sent to me from the FBI.
All right. And in those session logs, how many files were there?
I don't remember. I think there were 6 or 7 different items inside.
Did you look at the CAST-Viz 48-hour file?
I don't remember if I did. It was on the reception.
Did you look at it yesterday in preparation for this hearing?
I attempted to.
All right. And how about the CAST-Viz full log?
I attempted to yesterday.
I noticed in your report that there were several items that you listed. Were those from these CAST-Viz logs that you attempted to look at yesterday?
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to, you need to speak up a little bit. Or just telling me to pick up a little bit.
There were some files that were in the session logs, there were other files that were not.
Well, let's start with the 48-hour. What was contained in there?
There's over 48 hours that was the AT&T records, the original records. And there's a 48-hour session log. I don't know which one you're asking about.
Let's go with the session log. What was in there?
Appeared to be the AT&T records that possibly were inputted, as well as some JSON files that were probably produced by CAST-Viz.
JSON files were produced by CAST-Viz. Is that right?
I would assume that. I didn't create those files.
What date were they created?
I believe one was in December. The other was in April.
December of what year?
22,
And April of what year?
23.
Could you tell who created those?
I could not.
How did you get those?
I was provided those via email.
By who?
I made balance of the FBI.
What did you do with those?
I gave them as soon as I realized they were in my possession. I had contacted the prosecutor and gave them.
And that would be just yesterday, is that correct?
Yes.
What did you do with them prior to that time?
They were sent to me. I put them in a folder and I didn't do anything else with them. That's why I forgot them.
Okay. And that was the 48-hour file?
The 48-hour session log, yes.
How about the full file? What was contained in there?
similar items to the 48.
What is the full file?
I believe that was the second AT&T return that we got via warrant. I wasn't able to open it to verify it.
That brings up a question for clarification. When you say second warrant return, are you talking about something that relates to Bryan Kohberger?
Yes, there was 2 warrants that were originally written. One that covered a 48-hour period for the cell phone number, and there was one that was later done for a longer period of time.
And those are what you're referring to as the warrants 1 and warrant 2?
Correct. Okay. 48 and one for the longer period.
In the report that I just received today, there was reference to a loped bar file. What's that?
It is a file that I received from Agent Balance.
When did you receive that?
Honestly, the modification or the email, I honestly don't remember. Unfortunately, it was yesterday and I didn't throw this stuff together. So, okay.
So that was one that you just found yesterday?
Yes,
Okay. Did you open that?
I don't recall opening it. If I did, I don't recall doing it.
How about the CDR.S.XLSX file? Would that, and CDR, what does that stand for?
All detail records?
Did you open that?
I don't remember if I did not.
Did you open it yesterday?
I don't remember. I was looking for it. Once I found them, I was trying to figure out how they came into my presence or in my possession. That's where I started to focus.
Okay. How about the export.kmz file? When did you find that file?
I had found that one yesterday.
Do you know when that came into your possession?
It was some time ago.
Did you open that?
I believe I did on my laptop.
What did that show you?
It showed me different locations and so forth on a map.
Those 3 files that we just talked about, along with the CASVIZ 48 and the CASVIZ full, are those copied so that I can have those now?
Yes,
And you referred to emails. How many emails did you find when you were preparing for this hearing?
I believe there was 5.
Are those included for me to have now as well?
Yes,
Thank you. In the report that I received today, there was a reference to drawings.json file. What's that?
it was a JSON file that was inside the CASVIZ session.
What does that depict?
It's just data that CASVIZ would use, I'm guessing, to replot something on the map to actually show locations or other things.
Did you do anything with that file when you found it yesterday?
I did open that file, yes.
Okay. What did that show you when you opened it?
There were references to 2 locations inside.
When you open it, does it just say here's 2 references, or what does it show you when you open it?
It's different code, but there is some plain language or plain English, plain text inside of that code that show 2 addresses.
Did you use that file? Well, let me ask this first. That file that contains code, do you use that with the CASVIZ program?
I attempted to load the session file in its entirety and it received errors, so I was not able to. That's why I went into the JSON file to see if there was something I could see reference.
Is that file usable?
I'm sure it is somewhere.
What is the restriction for you?
I don't know what restriction it is. I don't know what to do with that file outside of, if I could possibly bring it into the CASVIZ. I tried to pull it in as a combined session log, which is what I was trained to do. So I didn't get that. I didn't pull that file.
Is that file available on a discovery drive for me?
Provided to the prosecutor today.
Thank you. In the report that I just got today, there's a reference to another cast viz session and some screenshots. What is that about?
I believe you're talking about just the regular 48 hours folder.
I don't know. I'm curious.
So that I provided two folders. One was cast viz and one was my last name of Maori. That was to differentiate the files that I found that were provided to me and the folder of the files that I used to create this report.
Okay. Cast viz is the files that you found while preparing,
Correct.
and the one that says Maori is what you used to create your May 3rd report of 2023.
Yes.
Okay. I think I understand that now. In that file, I think your report said you found screenshots dated April 19th of 2023.
Yes.
All right. Does that mean that's the day that you put things into your CastViz program?
That was the day that I made the screenshots themselves.
Okay. Where are those screenshots now? Are those also included on the drive?
Yes.
Okay. And then your report dated 5/3 says that you were asked to examine the record. So I'm a little confused if you had something that you took screenshots of on 4/19, but on 5/3 you were asked to examine the record. What were you doing on 4/19 or before to get those screenshots?
So I was tasked, the date was May 3rd for the report. It's not the date that I asked.
Okay. What day were you asked to do?
I do not remember. I'm gonna guess that it was somewhere around April 19th. Because that's when the screenshots were created.
Okay. Let's talk about that time frame then and what you did. Did you actually use a CastViz program at that time to create something?
Yes.
The CastViz program that you used at that time, and we're talking about springtime of 2023, we'll call it April for now, if that's fair. What training had you received by then to do this CastViz program?
The 2019 training.
Okay. With the CastViz program, what's the first thing that you did?
Once the program is open, you can drag and drop the CDR records into the program.
CDR means call detail records.
Right.
Did you do just 48-hour records or did you do full records in April of 2023?
I only did the 48-hour records.
When you put the records in, those are the call detail records, and those relate to what?
To the phone that the records were coming back to.
The number you associated with Bryan Kohberger.
Right.
Okay. After you put those call detail records in, do you have to do anything with cell towers?
With the AT&T, no, because the cell tower locations are in the AT&T CDR.
Okay. So you put that record in, the tower locations are already part of the call detail record that you put in?
Yes.
Is that something that you have electronic on your computer and then you open your CastViz program and just import it into the program?
Yes, AT&T provides both PDF and text documents of the file, and I use the text document to put into CastViz to have it ingest.
And when you do that, what gets exported?
Nothing. At that point, nothing is exported or created that I know of.
Can you export the session that you're working on?
You can export a session log, yes.
Did you do that?
No.
How did you create screenshots?
By using the built-in Windows snip tool, as well as the built-in Windows game console, I believe they call it the game bar, which is just accessed by hitting Windows G. That allows you to record your screen.
Are those the only two things you did, is screen clip and screen record?
Yes.
How many times did you use call detail records in the CastViz program?
Probably a dozen times. I'm not entirely sure.
That was a terrible question. How many times did you use the Cast Viz program in relation to Bryan Kohberger's call detail records?
I don't know.
More than once?
I recall doing it for the grand jury because I wasn't the main lead in the call detail records investigation.
I don't understand what that means.
I wasn't the main person looking at those call detail records.
You weren't the main person with the call detail records, but you put them in the Cast Viz program anyway?
For the grand jury, I was requested.
Okay. What did you rely on in producing those? Producing whatever you produced for the grand jury?
Rely on what did I produce? As far as the AT&T records,
I want to know what you relied on to do that, to produce something for the grand jury.
I don't understand the question.
Okay. You weren't the main guy with the call detail records or with the Cast Viz programming. Did I understand that much right?
There was another investigator that was doing that.
Okay. But you end up involved in it somehow in April of 2023, is that right?
That's when I was asked to examine the data to provide that for the grand jury.
Okay. Was that all of your instruction?
What do you mean by that?
Well, you're asked by somebody else who's actually doing this part of the investigation in the case to produce something for the grand jury to use. And I'm curious about what you relied on, to get to that point. I want to know all the records you relied on, all of the emails, all of the conversations you relied on to produce this thing that you're not the expert for.
So I wrote the affidavit for the AT&T records, received the AT&T records. Those records were also given to another investigator who was the main investigator doing the CDR records. Prosecution then asked me to provide or create some type of visualization of the call detail records and examine the call detail records for the 4 hours in question. That.
Just to be really sure, when you talked about writing the 2 warrants for AT&T, we're talking about 2 warrants that relate to Bryan Kohberger. There were a lot of other warrants. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to be really clear on that. You've taken the CAST training. Is that right?
Yes.
And you know there's a way to save your session. Is that correct?
Yes.
And there's also a way just to hit reset and delete your session. Do you know that part too?
Mhm.
And back in April, when you were creating something for the grand jury, you hit reset. Is that right?
Or I just deleted the files out of it. I don't remember if I had reset or deleted. You can delete them individually as well.
You don't remember which thing you did,
I do.
but you decided to delete what you'd created.
I don't know. I didn't delete anything. I didn't create the session log, so I don't know how I would delete it. You delete the reference of the file in the software, but the file itself is not deleted.
I want to make sure I understand. The record, the AT&T record still exists. You didn't delete that.
Correct.
But the session, when you put that in to the Cast Viz program, and it does its thing with the call detail records, which includes tower references, you either deleted that session or you chose to reset. Did I understand that right?
Didn't create a session log. I don't know how I would delete it. I just removed the reference to the file, the main file, from the software at some point. I don't know when I did that.
You don't know when you did that?
No, you can close the software without hitting reset or delete.
And then it would just stay there.
I deleted that.
And you can also export your session if you get interrupted and you want to come back and work on it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you do that? You left it up and running at some point and then did something that didn't save it. Is that right?
The session log was never created. Did not create a session log. The CDR records I was dealing with is relatively small. There's no need to do that because I can ingest the files right back into Cascades in a short amount of time.
Your Honor, just for clarity, may I approach? I have another exhibit to show him. I'll give it to you, Your Honor. Thank you. Are you familiar with the document that was handed to you that's marked Defendants W?
Yes,
And have you seen that before?
I have.
Is that something that you were taught from the CAST Users Guide?
I'm sure I was. It's also included in the software that can be readily accessed by anyone.
Okay. And Your Honor, would move for admission of Defendants W?
Thank you. No objection. Okay, that exhibit W is admitted.
Thank you.
No objection.
In your training, were you also taught from the CAST Field Users Guide?
I believe so.
I'm about ready to switch gears on you and talk a little bit more about videos for a second, but if I can have just one moment, Your Honor.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, let's switch gears for just a minute. You, during the course of your work, did you make contact with the Idaho Department of Transportation to talk about some of the cameras that cover main roads coming into and out of Moscow?
Yes.
And did you attempt to make preservation of any items?
Yeah.
What items did you want preserved?
I was trying to see if they had saved video or still images from those files.
What did you learn?
That they do not retain those.
Did you, when you say they do not retain those, do you mean they don't retain videos or pictures or both?
Well,
Did you do a preservation for anything?
not recall studying actually the preservation letter out.
Okay. Your Honor, if I can have another exhibit provided.
Yes, thank you.
What do you recognize that exhibit?
So these are emails that I was trying to find some kind of contact information for windy.com, a website that does weather-related information as well as has some links to images from cameras that are covering the highway.
And did you learn that you could have some still shots preserved?
I did.
Did you have some still shots preserved?
I did not.
Okay. Your Honor would move for admission of defendants PP.
Thank you. That's what, I'm sorry, PP?
Double P, yes.
That's what I thought. Okay. Exhibit PP is exhibit or admitted, no objection.
When we started talking, we talked about you kind of being the guy that would book or take videos in from different agencies, even if you didn't verify what was on the device you received. Is that right?
Yes.
And do you, I have a specific one that a couple of them I want to ask you about. One is from Red Star Coffee Shop. Do you recall receiving that video?
I did not.
Okay. And are you aware that it was booked in or brought in by Idaho State Police?
No.
How would I find out about those videos?
I don't know. You'd have to go through the USB drives to find out what was given. I was just given the mass USB drives. I was not given them individually by the people that were bringing them in for time. Given to them after it had been handed off to other investigators and other assistants that were helping the cops.
Is there somebody else I should ask about specific ones to track where they went?
I don't know. I don't have that information.
Okay. All right, give me just a minute, Your Honor.
Sure.
Thank you, Detective Mallory. I don't have any other questions for now, but hold on, the prosecutor might.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Ms. Jennings, Mr. Thompson.
Ms. Jeans.
Okay, Ms. Jennings.
Mallory, I want to go back and talk a little bit about this CastViz program. Can you explain to me generally what is CastViz?
It's just a software that is useful in creating visualizations of the call detail records.
Okay. So how is it useful? What does it show?
It shows the location and the direction of the cell towers and their sector antennas.
Okay. Now, what version of CastViz do you have?
Currently, I think I have 33 on my laptop. It's prompted me to update to 38. But at the time, I believe I had 30 installed.
So walk me through. You start up the software program,
Yes,
and then what do you do?
drag the text file from the CDRs into the system. It ingests the files and then produces a display of that data.
Okay. And is that what you did on the 19th?
Yes.
And then what did you do with that visual that was displayed?
Those visuals, I created screenshots, created the screen capture of the video. CastViz also allows a timeline playing view that you can record separate the Windows built-in software. Save those.
Other than uploading the CDRs, did you change any of the settings on CastViz?
The only thing that I would have done was gone in and changed made sure that the time was correct because they were coming in at the TC. It was a coordinated time. I wanted to make sure that those were representative of the local time.
All right, so you just changed it to Pacific.
Correct.
Any other changes?
No.
Okay. So you were talking about how it does not automatically save.
It does not.
Okay. And you chose not to save.
No, and in the exhibit that was provided, the actual text says that if you need to save a session file.
Okay. And can you tell me why didn't you save these settings?
I was creating the visualization exhibits. That's what I was doing with that.
Any reason to save the settings?
No.
Could this be recreated or redone in the same fashion?
Yes, I can, again, open the software, drag the CDRs back in, and in a very short time it is generated.
And it would give you the same information?
Yes,
Is that why you didn't save it?
yes.
I want to switch over to the other session files that you found. Were those session files created by you?
No.
Okay. And did you ever use those?
No.
And have you now turned those over, provided those?
Yes.
Now I want to switch gears over to what we were discussing as windy.com. What is that? What is Windy?
It's a website that is available for weather and such.
Okay. And why is that relevant in this case?
We were directed by, I think it was Captain Corporal Payne that told me that we should look into windy.com.
And why is that?
Just to see if they retained video from the cameras themselves.
Okay, so windy.com has cameras.
They have screenshots. They basically capture the ITD cameras and put them on their website. Those images are routinely purged from their site for the administration of that.
Okay. And can you explain to me, when are those, you talked about them being purged from their site? What's that schedule?
From going on their website yesterday, it's a public website, so I was able to go back to it. I don't remember exactly. I believe that within 24 hours, it's hourly. Within a week, it's daily. Within 12 months, it's monthly. And then after that, I believe it's, I was seeing probably like 3 months or so.
Can you explain why you didn't preserve those images from windy.com?
When it was discussed with other investigators, we would have only gotten, I believe it was one image per day. Time frame wasn't where we were interested in, so we didn't capture that once.
So there is no evidentiary value.
None that we did.
Okay. And have you since gone back and found some screenshots?
Yes,
It's what's available on the publicly available website,
anyone can go to windy.com and grab screenshots there.
and you've now done that.
I have,
Anything of evidentiary value?
no,
Have those been turned over anyway?
yes.
I just have 1 second.
Sure.
I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. Can you read that?
Yes, just a bit. You were just speaking with the prosecutor about the images from windy.com. And I thought you didn't preserve anything or go back and look at anything during your investigation. Did I misunderstand that?
So yesterday when I was directed by the prosecutor.
Okay, so yesterday the prosecutor said, go look for these things.
Yes,
But before that, you and other investigators decided not to. Did I get that right?
with the information that we were given, we were told that there would be a screenshot for the day, if I remember right, the parameters of. We did not grab those because they were not in the. Didn't see that they would be relevant.
But you didn't look back then. You waited until yesterday. Is that right?
No, we looked back then. I couldn't tell you what time. Most of the photos that were taken for the daily screenshot or the daily screenshots were daytime. Middle of the day kind of thing. So we didn't grab those at the time.
Okay, but you did look at the time and made a decision at the time. Do I understand that now?
Yes.
Okay. Back to the cast viz for a couple of questions for you. When you were doing the work back in April of 2023, did you see maps on the screen with the work that you were doing?
Yes.
And you also made a video of that. I want to show you a map and see if it's what I think it is. You have defendants R in front of you. What is that?
Appears to be a screen capture of the cast is software.
Is that a screen capture from a map that you made?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor would move for admission of defendants R.
Action.
No.
Exhibit R is submitted. No objection.
And are you aware that when you can see mapping on your screen on this program that there's a log created? Okay. You would agree that if I were to take the call detail records that have the tower report in them, I would have to have the same cast version you were using to recreate what you did. Would you agree with that?
I have to have, if I took the regular cell call detail records and put them into a different version of cast, are you saying that it would become different?
Well, I don't know. That's a good question. Let me try to be more clear about the one I was asking, and then I like yours. We might talk about your question as well. My question is, and the prosecutor suggested that your work be recreated. And so it didn't matter that you hadn't saved your session. What I want to know is if I have the 48-hour call detail records that contain the tower list like you have, do I have to have the cast viz program that you used so I can see what you did?
I don't know, because I don't know what the back end of the cast is software does. I'm just a user, so I don't know.
And you were in this cast viz program, at least for a while, creating exhibits that would be relied on. Is that right?
Yes.
On more than one occasion. Is that right?
Yes.
But you didn't save your work.
We did not create a session log. I did not see the need.
Would you agree I can't see what you did without your session log? Can't examine what you did without your session log?
It's there to create the visualizations for the exhibits. That's what I use cast viz.
But I can't see what you did. Is that right? Is that right?
No.
No, it's not right, or no, I can't see what you did.
You cannot, but I could take those cell data or call data records, put them into acids again. The results would be what they are because we're still using the same records from AT&T to create
Have you done that?
these records.
Yes.
No.
Thanks, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Anything on that, Ms. Jennings?
Um, can we go, why did you pull the CDRs into Castus?
Why did I do that in April? Because I was asked by you to do it for the tender.
Okay, is that the only reason you did it?
Yes.
Is that the only time you did it?
Yes.
Okay.
That I remember. I mean,
Yeah, follow up on that question.
Nope, thank you.
Okay, great. Can this witness be excused?
Yes, please.
Any objection? Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, thank you. Thanks, Matt. All right, you are excused, but you can stay if you like. Okay, next witness.
Your Honor, the rest of the witnesses will be present and ready to go on the 30th, to the very best of my knowledge. This was the only witness we needed to accommodate with today's hearing. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. So we're done for today?
We're done for today, Your Honor.
Wow, okay, Ms. Jennings, agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. Yes, what are you, hold on. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Beth. So I have a whole bunch of documents that is not clear whether I should sign the sealing or not, because there's no stipulation and there's no hearing, but we're all here together. So can we just go through this and clear it up? Yes? Sure. Sure? Okay, so the first one I have is motion to temporarily seal supplemental response to defendant's fourth and response to fifth motions to compel and motion to limit scope of testimony. And I have not signed that because there was no stipulation or agreed.
Your Honor, I apologize. I thought we had agreed, those have the detailed exhibits attached to them, and I thought we'd stipulated that those detailed exhibits could be sealed.
Okay, well, the addition on that was limited scope of testimony, so I wasn't sure if that was included in our earlier agreement.
Your Honor, that's the state's motion. I know we responded to that and we did not seal our response to that.
Okay. State is asking for sealing on that. Are we on the same page? You know what I'm talking about? Okay. Just want to know if I should sign this or not.
Well, I'm just not sure. Is there an objection? It's the state's motion to seal. Is there an
Right.
objection from defense to seal?
No, if they want their documents sealed, that's fine. We had responded publicly, and so I wondered if that changed.
Okay, so I'll sign this. That's one. I just don't want to get in trouble with your arguments about sealing and not sealing. Okay, I just want to be very clear on the record.
Thank you for that.
Plus is piling up with the clerk. Okay, next one is also the state's, well, this is the one that's sealed. Got that taken care of. Got another one from the state, a motion to temporarily seal exhibits one of state's second supplemental response, etc. Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. These titles are getting along, I have to say. Fine. Clear. I think that is one. Okay. This is the same. I think that's it. Anything else we need to talk about before we're done?
Nothing to say.
Nothing from us.
Okay. Thank you all. We're adjourned. Appreciate it.